Hi, my name's Seth Tichenor, and I am the instructor for this course, Aesthetics, Philosophy 245, for the Linfield College DCE. I thought I would take this opportunity right now to say a little something about the course for all of you in the course, and for those of you who are just checking this out on YouTube and seeing what's going on with some of these lectures, well, you're more than welcome to come in too. You're going to miss out on the Blackboard conversations that we have inside the cyber classroom we have here, but you're more than welcome to listen to this, and you can have a sense of where we're going to. Anyway, so here we are. All right, so, well, this is a philosophy course, as you have seen on your syllabi, or you just heard now, and I suppose that begs the question, what is philosophy, and what does this thing called aesthetics have to do with philosophy? Well, first, philosophy. What is philosophy? Well, ironically, this is one of the great questions that philosophers seem to never get tired of asking. Or maybe they get tired of it, but they continue doing it all the same. And to tell you the truth, it's a difficult question to answer very well anyway. There's probably about as many definitions of philosophy as there are philosophers, maybe even more. But I'll tell you, as much as there's all sorts of ways of answering this question, there are certainly a wide variety of degrees of success in responding to this question. And I'd like to share one of the responses I've come across over the years that I find very helpful. And certainly it's going to be guiding the way in which I approach this class, making these little videos for all of you out there. I came across a quote by a man named John Campbell. He is a scholar at Cambridge University, at least he was about 20 years ago, to tell you the truth. I don't recall whether he still is or not, but he was asked for a book to respond to the question, what do you think philosophy is? And I thought his response was really very thoughtful and very rich. He said that he thought philosophy was thinking in slow motion. And when he was asked what does that mean, he said, well, philosophy takes intellectual maneuvers that we ordinarily make at very great speeds. Both the concepts that we come up with and also the maneuvers themselves, the inferences, the assumptions, the speculations, all these sorts of things. And slows them down and breaks them down to their basic parts. And by doing that, a couple of things happen. First thing that happens is that it allows us to begin to have a much clearer idea of what we are actually thinking about when we consider a concept, right? I'm sure you've had experiences like this before where you presumed something was the case, you thought about it, and you realized you thought about it differently than you had before. Maybe when you were young, you were a child, and you thought you wanted something, and you asked a question about it, and another question, and discovered maybe you didn't want it. Not through experience, but just through consideration, right? Well, I would say that that's part of what Campbell has in mind, certainly where I'm thinking of, with regard to philosophy. It reveals something. It shows us something about the nature of our concepts, that they're not what immediately strikes us about them, and that there are ways to get into them, to look at their structures, to break them down, to see what their makeup is, and to see what can happen with them. But Campbell said something even more than that with regard to this. He also said that by virtue of doing that, it opens up all these new possibilities. We can consider our ideas in all sorts of new ways when we have this clear idea about them. We can do new things with them. We can engage with them in the way in which they deal with the world in all sorts of new ways, exciting ways, ways that really honestly open up these possibilities for us and indeed, I would say, even free us a bit. Now, I don't think that's a definition of philosophy, and I don't think that's all there is to philosophy, but I do think that that is something that can help us as far as proceeding with this course. It's certainly something that informs me as I put together this course and think about what I hope we can be doing with it. Now, as far as aesthetics specifically, as a branch of study within philosophy, what are we going to be looking at within this course? in that sense? Well, as you can see from the syllabus and what we've been looking at, certainly a great deal of this has to do with the philosophy of art. That is, asking fundamentally, what is art? And then the questions that lead from that, and the concepts that come from that. What do we do with art? What can be done with art? What does art entail? What difference does it make in our lives? Should it be controlled? Is it a form of expression? Is it something that has to do with our identity? All sorts of these questions, right? I think this is all very much within the scope of aesthetics, very much in the center of the scope of aesthetics. But I think that there's actually more to it than just that. I think that aesthetics covers at least two other areas. In addition to talking about art, I would say that aesthetics also covers an investigation into the nature of feelings. Now, I don't mean that exactly the way a psychologist might say that. I mean it probably much more vaguely and much more broadly. I mean feelings in the sense of emotions. I mean feelings in the sense of sense perceptions. In fact, that's where the word aesthetics comes from. It's from the Greek word aesthesis. But what are these things? What is it to have an emotion, to have a passion? What is it to have a sense? What difference does it make to us? How does it help us put together a grander scope of the cosmos and understand ourselves in it? Is it basic to us being what we are? How would we come to know the world if we did not have feelings or did not have senses? What do they do to inform us? And what's the role of our situation, of, say, our body in a physical world, amongst other things, as far as knowing this? I think these are questions that come up with aesthetics too. And I think there's at least one other thing, like I said, and that would be the idea of creativity. And I, again, mean that very broadly. I mean that in the sense of what is it to be able to generate new things by virtue of the way in which one conducts oneself and acts with oneself, one organizes one's energies in the world. What is it, for instance, to imagine? What is it, for instance, to express? And what difference does it make? These and other things other areas are what we're going to be looking at in this course. And I should say something else with that last little bit here too. I say, and other areas, and you say, well, that's great, Seth, but what other areas? Could you be more specific? And I'll tell you what, I can't, at least not yet, because what I'm hoping is as we proceed through this course, there's going to be all sorts of other things that we consider. I think one of the best things about doing philosophy, and especially doing a philosophy course, is that we discover new things along the way. I think philosophy is revelatory, I think it's transformative. I think you discover by virtue of looking at these new ideas, you discover new possibilities within yourself and consider new ideas from that. And so I'd like our study of aesthetics, our study of art, our study of what it is to feel, to sense, to express, to create, to observe, all these sorts of things. I'd like them to reveal whole new possibilities in our conversations, in our speculations, in our inquiries, and even within our critiques of one another. These are things I'd like it to do. So it's what we'll aim towards and the way we'll look at the course. As you can see, the course is laid out where we're going to spend the first part of it doing a history of aesthetics. We're going to look a little bit at a famous philosopher of aesthetics, Elliot Deutsch, and some of his interpretations of the nature of art. And then finally we'll end the course with a general set of readings about different aspects of aesthetic life and theory, written primarily by contemporary thinkers, but not entirely. So that's how we'll proceed. And we'll begin with the historical aspects, starting with the Greeks, Plato and Aristotle. So we'll move on to that. Nice to meet you.